All set? Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Northwest Community Council meeting of January 12th, 2026, our first meeting of the new year. Happy New Year to those who are here. We'll do the call to order that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people, and the municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. Apologize for the slight delay. For those people present, the delay was really because our live webcast, we've got a little bit of an IT issue, so people aren't able to watch this meeting in this moment. But once we get it resolved, it is being recorded, and we can check with the clerk's office in the morning and to be able to watch the entire meeting then. So hopefully we'll get that rectified soon. So we'll move on. I would say that our clerk this evening is Krista Vining with us. The legislative support is Alicia Wall, and our solicitor is Megan Carlson. So item 1.1 is with Councillor Gillis, our proclamation for the Lower Sackville Town Crier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to recognize Mr. Greg Fenwick sitting in the front row there. And we have a proclamation to read. Whereas Greg Fenwick has been historically recognized as town crier for Lower Sackville, appointed by former councillor Bob Harvey, and having received the latest appointment by former councillor Paul Russell, and whereas the purpose of a town crier is to serve as a public announcement officer, making public pronouncements such as proclamations, advertisements, and other news. The town crier is expected to embody the culture and best personality of the community they represent, maintaining the respect and high ideals of their office. They may be invited to open major events, introduce dignitaries, and lend an element of pageantry to special occasions. Although largely ceremonial, the town crier plays a vital role in the community's communication and engagement. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Councillor Billy Gillis, on behalf of the Northwest Community Council, do hereby proclaim Greg Fenwick as Lower Sackville town crier, dated at Halifax, Nova Scotia, this 12th day of January 2026. Thank you. I'd like to invite Mr. Greg Fenwick up to the podium. He's going to do a short cry for us.
Welcome, sir.
Oyez! 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 On this, the 12th day of January, in the year of our Lord, 2026, I thank the councillors of the Northwest Community Council for putting faith in the honorable art of town crying. As you confirm myself, Greg Fenwick, to continue as the area town crier in my 20th year of service to the community. May the art of town crying continue through the municipalities of Nova Scotia. Bless the Halifax regional community, Canada as a free and united country, and God save the King.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Fenwick. Thank you so very much, Councillor Gillis, and thank you, Mr. Fenwick, for 20 years and counting. We'll move now to the approval of the minutes of December 8th, 2025. Councillor Hartling, and seconded by Councillor St. Amand, I believe. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. All those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. We'll now move on to the approval of the order of business and the approval of additions or deletions. Madam Clerk.
There are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
In light of the fact that there is a member of the public that wished to view the next item to be able to watch it, would ask for Community Council's consideration to move 10.1.1 after 10.1.2. Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So it's to move the order of business as amended. Councillor St. Amand, Councillor Young, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. So business arising out of the minutes, there are none. Call for declaration of conflicts of interest. Hearing that there are none. Motions of reconsideration, there are none. Motions of rescission, there are none. Consideration of deferred business, there is none. And notice of tabled matters, there is none. We'll now move into hearings. And again, we're going to jump over 10.1.1 and we'll go directly to 10.1.2, which is the Plan App Development Agreement for Commercial Recreation Use at 5933 Prospect Road in Big Lake. The process is that you will please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair. The clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. Not 30 minutes, would be here all night. 30 seconds remaining, and when your time is complete for all speakers. After everyone on the list has been given an opportunity to speak, we'll call 3 times to see if there are any additional speakers. Madam Clerk, can you please confirm if any additional correspondence has been received for this public hearing since the beginning of the meeting today?
All correspondence has been distributed to Community Council.
Thank you so very much. We'll now ask for our staff to do their presentation. And we have with us Darrell Jodry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Darrell.
Thank you, Mr. Jodry. We're going to make sure that it is up on the screen as well before you start. There we go. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Darrell Jodry. I'm a planner with the urban group, and this is a project that I was asked to manage in the rural application group. Tonight's matter of business for me is a public hearing, Plan App 2024-0091. It is a development agreement at 5933 Prospect Road. The proposed development is from applicant Charles Freeman Architect. The location, as I said, is at 5933 Prospect Road, Big Lake. The proposal is for commercial recreation use, a stargazing park. The type of application is a development agreement. The image to the left of the slide is the site plan that was prepared by Charles Freeman Architect as part of the application for 2024-00911. It shows all the details that are proposed on the site. These two sites show these two slides show the site context. The one on the right is showing the red circle surrounding the site itself at the shore of Big Lake and along Prospect Road, and you can see what our fantastic shoreline looks like in this picture. The slide on the right-hand side is a close-up of the site itself, and you can see in detail this in this slide how it sits at the base of the lake and runs along the road down to the McGrath Cove Road. And the present zoning is also shown, rural residential A1 and residential B1 on the site. These two photos were taken from Google and showing the views into the site from along Prospect Road. The first slide on the left is a view of where Big Lake comes to a point and meets the road as you're traveling south on Prospect Road, and you get a good view into the typical site. The second picture on the right is an image into the site a little further down Prospect Road. Again, looking into the site and seeing the softwoods along the edge of the road. The next slide is showing the granite outcropping that runs along the edge of the road near where the proposed cafe is going to be located. And the last slide is taken near the intersection with McGrath Cove Road, which is on the opposite side of the subject site. This slide is to give you an overview of the planning policy in the District 4, Planning District 4. The regional plan and the subdivision bylaw both work to guide where population growth and the investment of services such as transit, piped water, and sewer should occur. The community plan for Planning District 4, the Prospect area, is outlining where, how, and which types of development may occur. Some uses may only be allowed after community consultation and council approval, such as we're here for tonight. The land use bylaw, or typically called the zoning, specifies what can be approved without going to council and seeking feedback from the public. Tonight's application is for a development agreement. This is the process chart for a development agreement. When the application is complete, it undergoes a staff review and it is sent to any HRM department that has relevant concerns, or even outside of HRM, as there are some provincial reviewers on our review team. Then the public engagement takes place. This may take a number of forms. Once the public engagement is complete and the staff review is complete, these are both analyzed, and the staff report is prepared by the planner assigned to the matter, and it comes to Community Council for the first reading of the notice of motion, which has already happened for this application, and we're here tonight for the public hearing at which Community Council makes their decision. After their decision, it's subject, whether approved or denied, it is subject to a 14-day appeal period under the charter. As part of the planning overview, there are a number of categories that are looked at during the team review. There is no water or sewer on this site. The zone is rural residential A1 and residential B1. The designation, which is actually the designation that's found under the MPS is Rural Residential A and Residential B. The existing use of the lands is undeveloped except for the relocated telescope that is on the property. The enabling policies are RB 11, IM 6, and IM 11. In terms of policy consideration, the first of the enabling policies is RB 11. This policy enables council to consider proposals for commercial recreation uses in the residential B designation that are not otherwise enabled by the applied zone. Council must consider the following in rendering their decision on a development agreement: the potential impact of the proposed development on the natural environment, in particular on the potential effects on the watercourses, that the proposal will not adversely affect nearby residential or community facility development by virtue of noise, visual intrusion, traffic generation, and/or littering. The impact of the proposed use on the existing road network in terms of traffic generation and vehicular and pedestrian safety, that any rifle ranges, amusement parks, vehicle or animal racing tracks shall not be located within 1,640 feet of the nearest residence. We have none of those uses within this area. Also for consideration is the layout and design of the facility, the general maintenance of the facility, the location and level of treatment of any proposed sewage treatment plant, the requirement for any applicable provincial approvals, hours of operation, and the provisions of policy IM 11. The policy IM 11 is a general set of policies that are used for all land use bylaws and development agreement applications within the plan area, and are probably quite common to council because of the frequency of their use. The next policy consideration is for IM6, and this policy enables council to consider providing for the development of similar uses on properties which abut one another through amendments to the land use bylaw for lands which are located where any land use designations abut one another. In council's consideration, the following must be used in rendering the decision on a development agreement: amendments within a designation to provide for the development of uses which are permitted within the abutting designation by rezoning or development agreement in accordance with the same conditions prescribed within that abutting designation. And there is a land use bylaw amendment included with this report. The slide shows the proposal details, which is really the site plan with the uses pulled out so we can see them better. Starting on the right-hand side at the lake shore, we have a boathouse, and a little further down from the boathouse, but near the parking, is a cafe, and within that shallow area behind the granite outcropping we saw earlier along the road, we have the Stargazers Lodge, and this will have multiple uses within the lodge for the users of the site. The next arrow is pointing to the Abbey Ridge Observatory itself. This is where the telescope will be actually located. Next are the bunkhouse observatories. These are rental bunkhouses that each come with their own telescope, where people can be situated by themselves out in the barrens. On the left-hand side, at the top of the slide and near the lake, we have a single unit dwelling. This will act as a residence for a caretaker for the site. Then we have a number of rental cabins for people who wish to camp overnight within a cabin, and these cabins, under the terms of the development agreement, may be traded out for 2 RV sites instead of building a cabin. Each one is worth 2 RVs. And then we have a sky circle deck, which is part of the trail system to sit on the deck and watch the stars at night. Then we have a number of tent sites that people may walk into and use these for their overnight dwelling. And then we have a research station, which is proposed for the use of astronauts in training, whether to be doing growing plants or doing physical exercises on Mars. The public engagement feedback, the notifications mailed were 22 in the area. The individual calls or emails received in response to those 22 notifications were 4, and those are 4 unique responses. And then we had a number of unique web page views, 276. The level of engagement completed was consultation achieved through the HRM website, signage posted on the subject property, and a mail-out notification. Feedback from the public engagement included impact to property values and privacy of property owners, the impact of day-to-day or night-to-night life on adjacent properties, how the parking areas will be managed and traffic generation, concerns related to the RV and tenting sites such as garbage, noise, and fire, environmental impact concerns and potential groundwater contamination, and concerns related to the proposed on-site septic and RV dumping. In response to these concerns, a number of changes were made to the development agreement. These include restrictions placed on the height and areas for each of the proposed building types, such as the single-unit dwelling, the rental cabins, and the Stargazer's Lodge. All buildings and or structures shall be set back a minimum of 30 meters from the front lot line. A minimum of a 20-meter setback from any watercourse or wetland contiguous with a watercourse shall be required. The proposed agreement includes a maintenance clause that requires the developer to keep the development in good repair. Requirements are included to provide all necessary permits from the Nova Scotia Department of Environment and Climate Change regarding the on-site wastewater system, and a site plan is attached to the proposed development agreement, which illustrates the general locations of proposed parking areas and entrances to the development. The elements of the development agreement include the Abbey Ridge Observatory, including the relocated telescope, a Stargazer's Lodge, including a variety of uses, including a community hall, a museum, and showers, an analog research station where researchers can train, a single-unit dwelling to be utilized as the owner's or caretaker's residence, a maximum of 12 rental cabins, where 1 cabin may be traded for 2 RV sites, a maximum of 20 walk-in tent sites, a maximum of 12 bunkhouse observatories, rentals with a telescope, a cafe, a boathouse with boardwalk access, and trails and sky decks. As part of the development agreement, there are a number of non-substantive amendments. A non-substantive amendment is a change to the agreement which can be made without a formal public hearing. The development officer or community council could authorize this change by resolution. These include changes to the landscaping, changes to the parking, circulation, and access, changes to the architectural requirements, and changes to signage. And also extension to the date of commencement of construction and extension to the length of time for the completion of construction. The staff recommendation contained in the staff report was arrived at after a detailed analysis of all relevant policies in the regional and local municipal planning strategies. Staff recommend that Northwest Community Council approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in Attachment A of the November 21st, 2025 staff report. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Excuse me, members of Community Council, do you have any questions of clarification for Daryl? going to go to request. Don't see any. Thank you so very much. We will now open the public hearing, and we will invite John Reed by Zoom, who is our applicant. So we'll just wait till we get that up.
All right, well, I'm here, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. You have 10 minutes, sir. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Well, I'll dive right in. Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. And Daryl, that was wonderful. Thanks for introducing Stargaze Nova Scotia to everyone. So I am astronomer John Reed, and I believe I have a slideshow. I don't know if I'm able to see this on the screen. Are you able to bring that up? Wonderful. Yeah, so I just wanted to, I'll use my 10 minutes to just show you what inspired us to create a stargazing park in the HRM. So let's dive right into the next slide. And so this all started back at the end of 2022 when I was working at the St. Mary's University Observatory on the roof there downtown, and a comet, which is a giant ice ball in space that tends to hang around the sun for about a month, was in the sky. And we were looking for a place where you could see it with a backyard telescope. So we could communicate that to the public, be like, hey, there's a comet, go to this park with your telescope and see it. And we scoped out everywhere we could think of, driving up and down Highway 103, looking at parks, but we couldn't find it. We realized that Halifax needed a place where everyone could go and observe the night sky. So the next thing we did was we consulted a light pollution map and realized that there was a blue zone. So that's an area representing the darkest skies. And that was around the Paggy's Cove Preservation Area right there. And then when we cross-referenced that with a list of properties that were for sale, we realized that there was a 26-acre lot right in the middle of that blue zone. And that's how Stargaze Nova Scotia was born. All right, so next slide. Yeah, so what have we accomplished so far? So we've relocated the Abbey Ridge Observatory. Now that's a nonprofit. Originally, the observatory was owned by the director of the Burke Gaffney Observatory at St. Mary's. But unfortunately, in 2023, he passed away, and the estate reached out to me asking if we would relocate the observatory to Stargaze Nova Scotia. And we did that. And also with his passing, the estate formed another organization of sorts called Starfinder, and that works with St. Mary's University to teach teachers how to teach kids about the night sky. And you can stay on that last slide for another second. So this was our sort of opening Starfinder event here. That's the picture, and that's various science teachers from all over Nova Scotia, and then presenting the original sign from Abbey Ridge Observatory to Dave Lane's widow, Michelle. And so that was quite an amazing evening there to commemorate the work that Dave did for the world of astronomy. So also, Stargaze Nova Scotia has been host to many photographers and the media, including CBC and most recently the Chronicle Herald. And we also film a lot of educational videos on site using the telescope and do research for stargazing guidebooks. And the videos, even the last month, have gotten millions and millions of views, teaching people all around the world about the night sky from Nova Scotia. All right, now moving on. So just wanted to show you some of these photos. So here's what the Northern Lights looked like last year. Absolutely incredible. And this is from Marcia Robinson, who lives in, I believe, East Dover, in the Prospect communities anyway. Absolutely wonderful skies, 360 views there up on the ridge. So two ridges intersect the property, and you're able to get up on those ridges, and that's where most of the stargazing would be done. You can go to the next slide to see some more photos here. Yeah, there's another shot of the Northern Lights taken by Marcia, and that's where you see it over the lake. Now here we have some of the other things you can see in the sky. On the left there, you've got the Milky Way as it viewed from the summer. We can go back to that previous slide there with the three images. In the middle slide, we have facing south, we've got the International Space Station. That's a 20-second exposure. In fact, these are all 20-second exposures with a regular camera. under different sky conditions. And then on the far right, that is a Geminid meteor there above Big Lake. And I was hoping to get the reflection off the water, because if you get an image of a meteor reflecting off a lake, you tend to win awards with those photos. But better luck next time, I guess. All right, moving on. Yeah, so I wanted to go piece by piece through the major items of the construction items on here and just go through what was the inspiration. And so the Sky Circle decks are round circles where people can gather around. The seats are inclined and you can observe the night sky. And so our Sky Circle decks are based off of the one at Kejimkujik at Jeremy's Bay Campground. And so it looks like here are two images, one from one direction and one in the other, showing, you know, where you have a better view of the sky there with the Milky Way. And you've got some concrete pads in the middle of it so that telescopes can be sturdy. All right, next slide. So the Stargazers Lodge is based exactly off of the square footage of the Joggins Fossil Center. And the idea is that this would include a planetarium, similar to that at the Discovery Center, but probably a lot more rustic. Museum exhibits or places where the local space communities, such as like Maritime Launch or Galaxia, could showcase their work. And then, of course, people need to eat, so we have the option for a cafe attached to this project. Right, next slide. And the research station. So this, I think, is really cool. And so the best example of this is at the University of Arizona. This is SAM. It stands for Simulated Analog Mars. But basically what it is a greenhouse that you can pressurize. So you can control everything about it, the pressure, the carbon dioxide levels, the oxygen levels, and it allows you to simulate plant growth in different environments. And I thought what would be really cool and add a neat Nova Scotia twist to one of these stations, one of these sort of greenhouses, is to add an aquaponics component to it. And I have a very good friend, Nicholas Laval, who has an aquaponics company in Nova Scotia who would love to partner with this. And so that's really exciting. Okay, moving on. Oh yeah, and this is sort of one of the outputs of what sort of research resulted from that work that the University of Arizona was doing. And this is Farm in a Box. And so they've created these boxes where you could hypothetically drop a shipping container down in a place that was experiencing drought. And then you unpack your solar panels, and inside are all the hydroponics required to robotically grow crops very, very rapidly for drought climates, and then some outdoor crop growth as well in a very small footprint. So I just thought that was pretty cool. So that was some of the results of that, the experiments with the research. Okay, next slide. The inspiration for the cabins, very much inspired by a stay at Black Forest Cabins in Mahone Bay. If you haven't stayed there, wow. It's pretty darn cool. So that was the inspiration for the cabins. You can see what they'd like to look like, what we'd like them to look like. Lots of skylights so that even from your bed, you can see the night sky. All right, moving on. And bunkhouse style observatories. So these are based largely on Sky Shed. There are these little domes, and they have these little outcroppings on them where you can put sleeping bags or bunk beds. But ultimately, it's a dome where you peel it back and you can observe the night sky with a telescope or with binoculars and just experience the night sky with a little bit of wind protection. And then the Sky Shed itself protects the instruments from the weather. All right. And those are made in Ontario, which is kind of cool. All right. Moving on. Yeah, so foundational to our mission is to protect the night sky, and that's prioritizing peaceful and quiet stargazing experiences at all times. So very important. Stargazing is a very relaxing activity, you know, almost like yoga, where you just do it to relax. You don't want anything loud going on at any time. So no loud music. Also, in terms of lighting is very important to observing the sky because you don't want to ruin your night vision. Your eyes need to be adapted to the dark to see the night sky, to see the Milky Way. And so using only RASC approved, that's Royal Astronomical Society of Canada approved dark sky safe lighting. Unfortunately, Nova Scotia leads in street lighting. The guy that designs most of our lighting is an astrophysics grad from St. Mary's University. So we've got him on our side as well. We've also got minimal line of sights from where we stargaze to the residences on Big Lake. And so that's very, you know, a minimal concern. They're about as far apart as possible. And that even includes that 30-meter wetland setback. So the cabins, again, as Daryl said, setback 30 meters, plus the incline adjustment. All right, moving on. And definitely our challenge, though, is combating light trespass. And so one example of that, here's a photo of the Big Lake Lodge. These are both 20-second exposures, one with the light off. They were really gracious to turn the light off during the Northern Lights, but when that light's on, it's not such a big deal for stargazing. It's not that intrusive, but for people that are doing photography, when there's a light on, it definitely can hit the camera and cause these big flares. But we did work with Ian Rankin to get a hood on that street light on McGrath's Cove, so that was
30
great to get some
seconds.
help there as well. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, next slide. Yeah. Anyway, just ending with a quote that the stars belong to everyone, famously said by Helen Sawyer Hogue, Canadian astronomer. That's
Thank
it
you
for
very
me.
much, Mr. Reid. And now we would ask members of Community Council, do you have any questions of clarification for Mr. Reid? Councillor Hartling.
Hello, Mr. Reid. It's Councillor Nancy Hartling. I'm glad to see you virtually. I'm just wondering if you could, because I know that it is actually a big deal, if you could maybe inform Northwest Community Council where you are today and why you're there, because I feel like that's a really special piece of this presentation.
Oh, yeah. So I'm traveling right now down to the States. And so I'm halfway there. I'm on my way to Texas for the Astro Awards, which is just a time of year where people in the space community get together and celebrate achievements in spaceflight. So they had me down here for a stargazing event. And I've got my kids here, dropping them off with the grandparents. So yeah, really, really special to be down here for the Astro Awards this year.
Great.
And,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I really, I look forward to hearing if there's anything from Community Council, but honestly, I think that this is a great addition to HRM and District 13. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hartling. Councillor St. Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really just had one clarifying question for you, Reid, and that was, I noticed that in your presentation you mentioned a 30-meter setback, but in the staff report it referred to a 20-meter setback. So was that change made in flight, knowing that it had been on the table originally in the updated regional plan? And obviously we haven't gotten back to that, but I'm just interested in why the decision was to take on that additional setback.
Yeah. So we heard that. There was the possibility of a 30-meter setback delaying it, and since we had the space, we figured we'd play it safe.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor St. Amand. Seeing no other questions of the applicant, we will now move to the speakers list. And so members of the public are given 5 minutes to address the topic. And when I call your name, please come forward to the microphone. The first speaker on our list is Bill Lorette, if I pronounce that last name correctly. Welcome. The floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for providing me with an opportunity to talk about proposed changes to the zoning bylaw for the identified properties at Big Lake to include commercial recreation within the existing zoning definitions. This bylaw change is required to allow the proposed stargazing park to rent 12 cabins, or most likely 24 RV sites, 20 tent sites, and the use of a boathouse on the shoreline of the lake with a dock for watercraft. There is no other operation or activity on or around Big Lake that needs the zoning change to include commercial recreation. The City Planning and Development Department has provided their opinion on the rezoning and suggested next steps for the proposed stargazing park to Northwest Community Council in the November 21st, 2025 letter that you should have all be familiar with. No direct efforts were made to provide this information to affected landowners or residents within the notification zone at Big Lake as determined by that department or applicant. The only official notification that we received was the notice of public hearing, which is happening tonight. This notification was recently received in early January 2026. A friend and volunteer firefighter from Prospect first made me aware of this project on February 7th, 2025. Since that time, I have dedicated well over 200 hours reviewing, reading, summarizing concerns and benefits for the proposed stargazing project and the proposed zoning changes. Now I'm supposed to try and compress several hundred hours of research into a 5-minute speech. Well, I truly cannot present my concerns and findings in a 5 minutes, so hopefully you will find merit in a few of the points that I will identify. I also hope that you have, or you will take the time to thoroughly review the 10-page summary that I provided you with today. I think it's reasonable that you read for yourself the concerns and support we have related to the rezoning and stargazing project at Big Lake. They certainly may be some differences in your individual perceptions of the information presented and the opinions received from the City Planning and Development Department. The decisions made regarding this project will affect everyone for the entirety of their residencies at Big Lake. I'm bewildered that the city is considering approving the application from the applicant without first having significant permits in place from the Nova Scotia Department of Environment and Climate Change. All activities that require water and generate wastewater will be governed by permits from the environment. It is estimated that the park, as described in the plan, could use and generate over 28,600 liters of water daily when fully functional. I own approximately 3 acres of land northwest of the proposed stargazing site on the opposite side of the lake. This site is within 120 meters of my property. I intend on building my retirement home and on my property this year. We need to rely on the official permit process with environment to adequately address the groundwater, wastewater treatment, and stormwater management challenges as it relates to the stargazing project. There certainly is merit in the educational as well as the tourist-based activities surrounding the stargazing park as it relates to the skies. However, it appears that this park is more of a campground which allows viewing of the stars. We certainly support the scientific component for astronomy. However, support is not offered for camping-related activities, especially when an existing campground is in place directly across the road at the Wilderness Stays campground that can accommodate up to 35 tenting and glamping sites. I would ask that you vote against any motion to approve the bylaw zone change to include commercial recreation and delay any decision to approve moving forward with the stargazing park until all relevant regulatory concerns are resolved or permits are in place, as this should happen prior to the city granting approval to proceed. Should this project be disallowed due to permitting requirements with the province not being met, the rezoning change to our area will actually stay with us forever, and then we may have to deal with further developments of recreational activities going forward, because not only does it affect the stargazing site, but the property abutting it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lorette. Councillor Hartling has a question of clarification for you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm just checking to confirm, when you say that you distributed us 10 pages, was that via email?
Yes, it was. Through the clerk, and I got verification from them that that information.
Okay, so it was in the package? Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that it's there and documented. I'm wondering if we might be able to get staff's assistance, because I feel like some of these questions might be better answered with the assistance of staff. As I understand it, your biggest concern is with the Nova Scotia Department of Environment as it relates to things like septic, things like that. Those typically are completely separate applications. I know that your expectation is that we would get one, that they would get those permits in place first, and then only then would the development agreement follow.
Excuse me, Councillor Hartling. Yes, after the public speakers, the staff will be able to come back and you'll be able to ask of staff the questions.
So just know that there will be a matter of we will follow up with that piece, but and I will look forward to them talking through that a little bit more thoroughly. But as I understand it, those are two separate applications, and it's not a matter of one happening in advance of the other.
Yes, and that information actually is provided in detail in the reports that I submitted to the city. So it will become more apparent the concerns that exist there. It's more of a putting the cart before the horse. I mean, this project has gone now for 2 years, and the city has spent time and effort on the planning process, the reviewing process and what have you. And if the permits from the department are not received, this was all for none when it comes to those activities that would require the extensive wastewater treatment plant and water studies to provide water for that site as currently proposed based on the camping, RV sites, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Lorette. Thank you so very much. We'll proceed. There were no other names on the speakers list, but I can ask 3 times. Is there anyone from the gallery that would like to speak to this? For the 2nd time, is there anyone from the gallery that would wish to speak to this? And for the 3rd and final time, is there anyone from the gallery that would like to speak to this? Mr. Lorette, you have already spoken. Mr. Lorette, as we proceed, staff will be answering questions. So if that satisfies you, yes? Awesome. Thank you so very much. So now the applicant, let's see if I can, yes. So now the applicant has 5 minutes to respond to any points raised by the speaker. So Mr. Reed, are you still available?
So the applicant has left Zoom. We are trying to reach out to them right now to see if they'd like to come back into the meeting and respond to any comments that they've heard. I'm just waiting for confirmation.
Okay. Well, let's just give ourselves a minute or 2 to see if we can get the applicant back.
So he is just having some technical difficulties, but is still trying to get into the meeting as we speak.
Well, let's give them a moment or 2 and so that they can respond. Mr. Reed, you are back.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened.
No, that's great. So Mr. Reed, if you've heard some of the comments that were made by the member of the public, Mr. Lorette, and if you can respond to some of his questions and concerns, please.
Yeah, no, I appreciate hearing from folks in the community, and I know I've been trying to participate as much as I can. I went to a community meeting at, gosh, forget our name's house, but up on the other end of Big Lake when the Bellevue campground was proposed. And there was a big meeting there, and it was really, really fun to meet all the people. And it was interesting because they were, you know, not supportive of the big campground, but all the people at that. And my understanding was that like all the people around Big Lake were at that house for that meeting about the Bellevue campground, which was the 700-acre one. You know, and I was there, and they were very supportive of the stargazing park. And then we put the sign, and the community meeting and the letters all went out last March. And so March of 2024. And the sign went up, I think, in February of 2024. And so everyone I've talked to, it's been really, really positive. And then in terms of the, the cabins being converted into RV sites, that's only one cabin can be converted. It's not possible to put 24 RVs there. One cabin could, in theory, be swapped out for 2 RVs. And, and then the tent sites too. The only reason we put the tent sites there was because the Cub Scout camp reached out to us. And I was like, oh, about the time we were working on the plan there in late 2023. And so we were like, wow, we should have some tent sites just in case the Boy Scouts call or Cub Scouts and want to set up, do a camping night with stargazing. So that's what inspired that. But, if you've ever stayed at Black Forest, it's very, very peaceful in Mahone Bay, and that's the sort of atmosphere that we're going for here at Stargaze Nova Scotia. And so peace and tranquility across the board is what we're going for here. And so that's the goal, and that's what we're going to maintain. All right, that's it for me.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Reid. We will now ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Councillor Gillis, seconded by Councillor St. Amand. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Motion. Those contrary, the motion is carried. The motion was made and carried. So now we will ask staff to respond to any points. Sir, we did ask if there was any members of the public that wish to speak, and I'm sorry it's gone past that item. So I'm sorry, sir. We'll now ask staff to come forward and for staff to respond to any comments that were raised by the speakers, please. Welcome back, Daryl, and welcome, Jessica.
Good evening. My name is Jess Harper. I'm the Principal Planner for the Rural Policy and Applications team. So I was taking some notes here on the comments that were provided by the speaker. Just one clarification. This is not a zoning change. This application is for a development agreement that is specific just to this property. So all the controls that are in here apply just to this property. It's not a region-wide, sorry, it's not a plan kind of zoning change that'll happen to all properties. In terms of notification, the applicant spoke this a bit, there was a notification that was sent out to the property owners that are noted in the map in the notification area at 2 separate times. The first one being when we conducted a fact sheet mail out, and then a second time again here when we were advertising for the public hearing. In terms of the approvals that are required for the province, just can draw, the council's attention, anyone who's following along. Our development agreement does include some general clauses up front that does require that the developer is responsible for securing all applicable approvals associated with the on-site and off-site servicing system, as well as the development agreement requires that prior to the issuance of the first occupancy, the developer is required to provide a copy of all permits, license, and approvals by the Nova Scotia Department of Environment and Climate Change as they relate to the on-site water distribution system as well as the on-site wastewater system. It's not uncommon in a development agreement application at this preliminary stage to not have those approvals submitted, and that for them to be required through the development agreement at the permitting stage as the developer is working through the detailed design to kind of put those packages together. And so when they come in for the permitting stage, that will be something that our development officers are looking for when they're reviewing the permits to ensure that those clauses are satisfied and that those proper permits are in place and have been submitted. If I've missed anything, please let me know.
Thank you, Jessica. We'll now ask members of Community Council if they have any questions of clarification for the staff based on their responses. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Jess. I just have one about the parking. So in Mr. George's presentation, he mentioned briefly parking. I just wonder how many spaces on the site, and does that pose any traffic congestion issues to get in and out of the site. Thank you.
Councillor Young, I think that question might wait till we get to the debate on the motion. Is that right from our legal counsel, Megan?
Yes, I think staff could answer it.
Oh, she's saying staff can answer. Go for it.
I think through the chair to the councillor. So the development agreement does include requirements for the maximum number of parking space depending on the use. This application was reviewed by the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works, as Prospect Road is a provincially owned and maintained street. A traffic impact statement was submitted as part of this application, which was reviewed and accepted. There were no concerns that were flagged through that review or through the statement that was. And then, as mentioned, the development agreement, depending on the type of use, the way it's broken down, includes the maximum number of parking spaces that can be provided.
I'd just like to add that part of the parking space already existed from another use that was formerly on the site and is being reused for this application.
Is that sufficient, Councillor Young? Yeah, thank you so much, Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much. I just want to follow up as a matter of clarity because I do want to make sure that the concerns of the residents are adequately addressed. I think, as I understand it, their expectation was that anything related to sewer and well and things like that, that those things would be in place prior to the development agreement happening. The truth of the matter is that, and as I understand it, I think that you've already said it's not uncommon. But can you just expand a little bit more so that the residents can understand typically how how development agreements roll out, and that it is not on the municipality to, like, the Department of Environment, who is responsible for monitoring wells and things like that. That is a provincial matter, and that they're two separate streams. And one does not happen in advance of the other, as I understand it. So if you could just speak to that a little bit more, just to provide some clarity.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. That is correct. So at the development agreement stage, the detailed design has not been worked out. We have a preliminary concept that's submitted and preliminary information that allows staff to evaluate the proposal against the policy to ensure that it generally meets the intent. And to ensure that the site is suitable and that there's adequate space to accommodate all the different features that are kind of proposed here. Mm-hmm. In terms of the permitting, because that detailed design hasn't taken place, the detailed of the different septic systems and the wells have not been completed yet at this stage. So what staff do is they include the provisions within the development agreement that you can't receive your permitting, other occupancy, or a building permit until those approvals have been received. You're correct that they are kind of two separate. The development agreement happens kind of here with the municipality at our stage, but it's outside our jurisdiction to review and approve the septic systems and the on-site water distribution systems. Those do happen separately through the province, and are required at the detailed design permitting stage. And I was going back here. As mentioned, the development agreement requires that all applicable permits are received by the developer and submitted to the municipality. So if the developer were to come in for their permits and they didn't have those appropriate approvals that from the province where they were, they met all their regulations and the requirements and they were satisfied, then their permit would not be issued until such time that they could supply those to the municipality.
Right. So even though the development agreement may enable that permit, that's only one piece of a two-part thing. Exact. Okay. Yeah. So I hope that provides some clarity there.
The developer is told very early on in the team review process what permits are required for this application and who will be the issuer of that permit.
Right. And the other thing that I would like to follow up on, you did touch on it, but I just thought that I would do a little bit more digging just so that there can be some better clarity. And I think that you have spoken to it some. In the event that this development agreement, were to pass today, that does not automatically enable future development agreements or commercial zoning, for example, in any abutting lot necessarily.
That is correct, Councillor. If an adjacent or nearby property wishes to do a similar or a different type of commercial recreation use, a separate application would be required to be submitted. A separate review would also be done to ensure that the proposal met the intent of the policy, as well as we'd be going through these same steps we are today. There would be an engagement stage, a development agreement would be drafted that would be specific to that property, to that use, where these very similar types of controls and provisions that we're talking about here today, like for permitting, would also be required. And then we would still be back here in front of council for a public hearing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And I will say too, I know that I have, as soon as the public hearing was made available, I know that I posted it on my social media. I know that we do maintain very transparent government. And you know, I don't know whether the two speakers, whether they do you happen to know whether they received communication as part of the package when this development agreement first was being considered? I know that because there are very few people who live in the area, so I'm just trying to understand how early they received notification.
With the information, the fact sheet and the letter of development of proposal.
Okay.
The reason we did instead of responding to one person, we tried to summarize their questions and to answer them for all, so that everybody would have a feeling of these concerns that these residents had, and spread them over the Planning District 4, and try to answer them all instead of just one person having the answers.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hartling. I see no other names on the list. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Daryl. So now, what are the wishes of council? Councillor Hartling? Motion.
I move that Northwest Community Council adopt the amendments to the land use bylaw for Planning District 4 as set out in Attachment B of the staff report dated November 21, 2025, contingent upon the amendment to the Planning District 4 land use bylaw being approved by Community Council and becoming effective pursuant to the requirements of the Halifax Regional Municipality Charter. It is further recommended that Northwest Community Council 1, provisionally approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in Attachment A of the staff report dated November 21, 2025. And 2, require the development agreement be signed by the property owner within 120 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end.
Seconder was Councillor Young. So Councillor Hartling.
I have nothing further to add. I'm ready to call the question unless anybody would like to say more.
I see no other names on the list if you wanted to call for the question. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you very much, and thank you to our staff and to our members of the public and speakers. We'll now go back to item 10.1.1. Excuse me, and this is Plan App 2025-00792, amendments to an existing development agreement for 131 Hanwell Drive in Middle Sackville. So again, thank you for joining us for this public hearing. The process is to start with the staff presentation and questions of clarification from the staff, then give the applicant an opportunity to present, and after that we go to the public hearing. Speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes. We do ask that comments are respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair, and the clerk will announce when there are 30 seconds remaining and when the time is complete for all speakers. After everyone on the list has been given an opportunity to speak, I will ask 3 times if there are additional speakers. Speakers can participate in person, or if you pre-registered by the deadline, you have the option to participate using Zoom. As a reminder for those watching, in order to have signed up as a Zoom speaker, the deadline was 4:30, the business day prior to the meeting. However, there is no deadline to speak in person as long as you are present. Madam Clerk, could you please confirm if there is any additional correspondence received for this public hearing since the beginning of the meeting?
All correspondence for this item has been circulated to Community Council.
Thank you so very much. We will now ask for our staff presentation, and we have Craig Warnell with us. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Community Council. My name is Craig Warnell. I'm a planner too with HRM's Urban Enabled Applications Group. This is a public hearing presentation for Planning Application 2025-00792, which is a substantive amendment to a development agreement at 131 Hanwell Drive in Middle Sackville. Our applicant this evening is WSP Canada. Again, our location is 131 Hanwell Drive. The proposal is to extend the completion and commencement dates and also amend the non-substantive section of a development agreement. Again, our type of application and the process that be is a substantive amendment to a development agreement. And here we have a photo on the left of the proposed site plan that was included in that second amending agreement. Touching base on a bit of site context, the photo on the left is a fairly distant aerial view with Murchison Drive highlighted in red. We can see McKay Lake on the bottom left-hand corner and Weber Lake on the right. Both of those bodies of water about Highway 102. And the photo on the right, is a more zoomed in version of that same photo. We can see the site again highlighted in red. And it is at the terminus of Murchison, Swindon, and Hanwell Drive. Some additional context of the site. Again, on the left, we're standing on Murchison Drive. We're looking southeast at the site. The photo on the right, we are looking northwest, and we're standing on the corner of Swindon and Hanwell Drive. Here we can already note that the site is vacant. As previously stated, there's already been agreements on the site. I've noticed those previous cases and their designated numbers here. The initial Sunset Ridge subdivision development agreement was made in 2008. And then our first amending agreement was only to amend our side yard requirements. That being said, that was for the single unit dwelling and semi-detached dwellings that were included in that Sunset Ridge subdivision. And additionally, case 22820, which was a substantive amendment to that initial Sunset Ridge development agreement. This was made in 2022, which allowed for a mixed-use building at 131 Hanwell Drive. And this is a product of that second amending agreement. However, subject to financial and certain logistical constraints, even though a permit was obtained, construction still has not yet commenced. So currently, we have some completion and commencement dates set already. So our current agreement, again, sets those commencement and completion timelines. This was based on when the second amending development agreement was registered at the Nova Scotia Land Registry. This was in August 2022. From that date, the commencement of construction was required by August 18th, 2025, and our completion date for the construction project was August 18th, 2028. And again, no construction has commenced on site, although a building permit has been issued. So our current proposal, our applicant is looking for more time. Specifically, they wish to add 5 years to the start of construction and 8 more years to finish it. So if approved, our new commencement date, or must commence by date rather, would be in August 2030. And our new completion date would be August in 2035. So the applicant is also requesting that additional changes be made to the existing agreement so that any future extensions for commencement and completion would be non-substantive. And that again could be handled through that non-substantive amendment process where a development officer can initially be made that decision. So this is something I wanted to expand on a bit more before we move forward. Today we would not consider it common for a time extension to be a substantive amendment. That being said, our non-substantive amendment sections of our development agreements can be amended by development officer's decision. But when this second amending agreement came in for consideration, time extensions specifically for the completion and commencement dates were not added to that non-substantive section of that development agreement. Moving on to a bit of our policy and planning overview. Looking at our regional plan and subdivision bylaws, we've already heard tonight, this generally guides where population growth and investments like services and water and transit are made in the municipality. Stepping down to a bit more of a community scale, our community plans, like our municipal planning strategies, outline where and how and which types of development may occur. And generally development's done here through a discretionary approval process, which is a decision by you fine folks. Moving down to our land use bylaw. So this is more of the site-by-site basis. So each property in HRM would have received a zoning designated by that community plan. These land use bylaws, again, they designate a zone per property. Within that zone, it enables specific uses, and that specific use designates certain criteria for development. And again, decisions on development at this level can be made by our development officers. So this again, we're amending a development agreement, so we would follow essentially the same process as any development agreement at this point. At this point, we've received the complete application. Staff have reviewed the application itself. We've gone out for team review. We've performed our public engagement. We've drafted our staff reports. We've received a first reading. Today we're at our public hearing. Following our public hearing today, we have a 14-day appeal period. So before we touch on our policy and engagement, our planning overview showed that the lot is vacant. We're already serviced by sewer and water. We're Zone CDD, or Comprehensive Development District. And for consideration of policy today, we're looking at RR3, UR10, and IM13. So our neighborhood policies consist of policy RR3 in the Sackville Municipal Planning Strategy. So this enables council to consider comprehensive residential developments, including but not limited to our mixed-use building. So again, moving down to policy UR10 and then IM13, this specifically sets up our development agreement process, which then gives council the opportunity to consider constraints and provisions relative to that development. We've already touched on a bit of our public engagement where the process landed, but our level of community engagement was consultation. And this was achieved through providing information and seeking comments through our HRM website, signage posted on the subject site, and letters mailed to our property owners within the expanded notification area. Now with this one, given that the lot is situated between two African Nova Scotian communities, at the recommendation of the African Nova Scotian Community Action Program team, the notification area was expanded and divided into two separate mailing lists to better capture the interests of the two separate and two respective African Nova Scotian communities. Our fact sheet was mailed out to 534 residents in the surrounding communities. During this engagement period, 3 email submissions came in and 1 telephone inquiry were received. As of January 9th, our project webpage recorded 265 views. These 4 comments reveal 3 different themes. First, that the proposed extensions in commencement and completion dates were excessive. However, after reviewing the applicant's rationale, primarily related to financing, as well as certain logistical challenges that they've recently faced, staff believe that the time requested and the extensions and the rationale are reasonable. The second theme was concerns raised about transparency and accountability, specifically around classifying any future extension request non-substantive. We've already touched on this a bit already, but this approach already aligns with our standard practice for development agreements. Generally, time extensions are considered through our non-substantive processes. And the third was safety concerns. They were generally noted because the property has been vacant and is not regularly maintained. I relayed to the individual that any site-related safety issues should be reported to 311 immediately, and they would later be investigated and followed up. So all that considered, the staff recommendation contained in the staff report was arrived to or at after a detailed analysis of all relevant policies in the regional and local municipal planning strategies. And staff recommend that Northwest Community Council approve the proposed substantive amendment to the development agreement.
Thank you very much, Craig. We'll now ask questions of clarifications to staff from the members of Community Council. And our first question comes from Councillor Gillis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Craig, for the presentation. Just a few things I want to touch on there. One of the things that you mentioned was time extensions are a common practice nowadays. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly? Okay. Did the applicant give any indication on why they wanted such a long extension?
Through the chair to the councillor. So initially the applicant came in as indicated in the staff report for 8 years for commencement and then additional 8 years for completion of the project. The rationale kind of revolved around just certain logistical challenges that they received at this point. And then we, after a staff review and kind of a bit of consultation with the applicant, we recommend that they drop it back down to 5 years for commencement as well as 8 years for completion. But they didn't really give us much more than logistical and financial challenges that they were facing.
Okay. And the policies that you mentioned at the end there, could they be changed in the suburban plan when that, like, could they be modified?
So through the chair to the councillor, I'm glad you touched base on that. So with these time extensions being 5 years and 8 years, again, that's kind of scary to think, but that pushes up to like 2030. Yeah. So at this point, we're within the realm of the suburban plan. So again, notwithstanding any transitional policies in that suburban plan, should there be any requests for amendments or changes in the future, if those policies don't exist, with the addition of our suburban plan, we might not be able to consider those things.
Okay. And then the last point. If we were to take out the history of this lot, I guess, would this be as of right today? Like, would they be able to build that as of right?
Through the chair to the councillor, the lot's currently zoned CDD. So that underlying zoning kind of refers us back to our policy, yeah. Which again refers us back to certain processes with comprehensive developments for like larger communities and that type of thing. So if we were to remove the development agreement, we would have to refer back to our CDD zone, which would effectively require a municipal planning strategy amendment, I believe. So essentially, no. Essentially.
Okay, so it wouldn't be allowed.
It wouldn't be enabled yet.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gillis. Any other questions from members of Community Council? If not, if you would indulge a question from the chair. Craig, just building on the question around the suburban plan and this extension, should there be any changes between now and when they start construction that would apply to any zoning or requirements? Would they have to accommodate what is current? Or would it be based on the development agreement of the day that was approved?
So thank you, Madam Chair, for the question. If the applicant came back in, should this amendment be approved, requesting additional amendments that were included in that non-substantive section, they could effectively make those in-house with our development officers. But the applicant still does have the opportunity before any suburban plan arrives to come in and make additional amendments, I believe, whether it be substantive or non-substantive, prior to that suburban plan, as long as those policies do exist.
Thank you. And considering the history of this, where a previous community council rejected and then it was approved or it came back as a result of the Utility and Review Board, right? So does that have any precedence in this discussion on this amendment today?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question, but I don't believe, other than acknowledging the fact that that has happened, that has any bearing on our conversation today.
Thank you so very much. And so seeing no other questions of clarification for Craig, we will now open the public hearing. And I'm sure we'll have questions coming back from you later, Craig. Excuse me. So now we invite the applicant to address council, community council, and Courtney Lawrence for WSP is here. And I believe it's a verbal presentation. Welcome, Courtney. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me tonight. So, as mentioned, my name is Courtney Lawrence, WSP, and I'm representing the landowner, ACA Holdings, tonight. So, as staff have alluded, we have put in an application to amend the current development agreement to seek extension on commencement and completion dates. So, we're looking for that 5-year extension for initiation and that 8-year extension for completion. As was noted, the primary rationale behind that is due to the changing financial market. So when the application came in, it was spring last year. So as we know, there's a lot of uncertainty that came up with tariffs, concerns about skilled labor force to support the changes, to support the work, uncertainty with construction materials, items like that. And so that was kind of the impetus behind the amendment for the development agreement. And since then, I will note too, there has been, that has been compounded further by the recent fire to the apartment buildings adjacent to the property. So I just want to note that as well. And as I've noted, there's no other changes to the development agreement being requested. It is just for the extension for the time period, as well as moving the future extensions, if requested, to the non-substantive component of the development agreement. I will note that the applicant is working towards getting the development going, and they've already secured several permits as well. And so they have building permit, grade alteration, water permit. So they are actively pursuing this, and they just needed more time to get financial security underway, get that the labor as needed, materials, items like that. And with that, I will put it back to council for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Courtney. So now, members of Community Council, do you have any questions for the applicant for Courtney? Seeing none, thank you very much, Courtney. We'll now go to our speakers list. There was no one signed up in advance, excuse me, but we will ask 3 times if there is someone from the gallery that would wish to speak. For the second time, we'll ask if there's someone from the gallery that wished to speak. For the third and final time, if there is anyone from the gallery that would wish us to speak. I will acknowledge that there were plenty of emails that came in on this item though. So hearing none, usually we'll say if there's any questions of clarification required from the speakers, but there were no speakers. So we will now ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Councillor Gillis, Councillor St. Amand for the second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Thank you. The motion has carried. Members of council, do you have any questions of clarification from the staff as well? Councillor Young, you have a question of clarification from the staff?
Yes, I do. Just on some of the issues that came in from the community. Hi, Craig. One was about, I don't know, if, parking, if that's going to be an ongoing issue on the same drive, Hamwell Drive. The other one was water suppression and water pressure. The suppression is for the hydrants. As you know, there was a fire not far away from there. Apartment building, he had issues with the fire hydrants. And the other one was wastewater runoff from the development once it gets started up. So if you could look at those 3, please, and just give me a response back.
Through the chair to the councillor. Thank you for asking the questions, Councillor Young. So again, I think it needs to be noted that this application is simply for a time extension. This was a previously approved development application, development agreement application. So details such as parking, the grade alteration, and those types of things were already kind of ironed out at this point. Initially, when the amendment came in for the alteration to the development agreement to permit the mixed-use building, our development engineering group reviewed the traffic study that was provided by the applicant, and they approved the findings. The traffic study specifically said that there's no significant impacts to trip generation, and they don't find parking to be a concern. They didn't anticipate parking being a concern. I did have a look at the building permit that was issued today. It looks like they were providing around 71 parking spots for 52 residents. All that considered, I think we'd be okay there. Our water runoff issues, these are generally handled at permitting. So I believe somebody's already touched on this at this point. We already have grade alteration permits in place, so these would have been reviewed by our development engineering group. So they would have given that the green light at this point. Now, unfortunately, anything with related to water suppression from my end would be anecdotal. I'm not the expert on this. Okay. This again would be something that you'd have to kind of coincide or speak with Halifax Fire and Halifax Water just to make sure that all those suppression rates are fine. But that being said, the water permit was granted in this case. So that means that Halifax Water would have reviewed the permit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Seeing no other names on the list, what are the wishes of council? Councillor Young, you have a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Northwest Community Council, number 1, approve the proposed development agreement amendment, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the staff report dated October the 28th, 2025, and 2, require the amending agreement be signed by the property owner within 120 days, and any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of the final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end.
And a seconder? Second. Councillor Gillis, thank you. Councillor Young.
I really didn't have anything else to add other than some of those concerns from the many emails that I received. I was expecting some, based on emails, I was expecting some speakers here so I could correspond with some of the questions, but there was nobody here, so I guess it's time for the question.
Seeing no other speakers on the list and the question has been called, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate you being here. So now we move on. Our next item is correspondence. Madam Clerk, the correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Do we have any? Madam Clerk.
Correspondence has been circulated for items 10.1.1 and 10.1.2 to Community Council.
Thank you very much. And petitions, do we have any petitions this evening? No, seeing none, and we have no presentations. Moves us now to public participation. Speakers can participate for a maximum of 5 minutes. Again, we ask that comments are respectful, on topic, and directed to the chair, and the clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is complete. Although we have had no one sign up in advance, we can call for the first time. Speakers from the floor, welcome Mr. Reagan. And Happy New Year, Walter.
yourself and the councilors. I have 3 quick questions. Can I get an update on what's happening with the Halifax Green Network Plan, and will it be transferred into the regional plan soon? And I was reading the agenda for tomorrow night, and I was extremely pleased and happy to read the agenda item 15.2.1 on the lake watching program. I think that's a great report. I really recommend the councilors vote for it. I only have one small request with that report. To the list of lakes, can you add Sandy Lake? Because that's also an HRM beach area, and it would be helpful to have that testing ongoing. But that's a great report. I was very, very impressed on it. And my last question, can I get an update on the Sackville Drive culvert replacement, please?
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. And so on your 15.2.1, stay tuned for tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. We take your request seriously. And in terms of your other 2 questions, I'll refer to your Councillor Gillis, to provide responses for Mr. Reagan. Councillor Gillis, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can give you a verbal update if you want right now, or I can give you an email. So yeah. So verbal update is it's going ahead. It's a little bit behind schedule. The planning was supposed to begin this fiscal year, but just due to constraints with staff and stuff, it had to be kind of put back a little bit, but it is ongoing. The planning is underway. Yeah, we're hoping it'll be in the budget book to come out for plans to move forward with that. So, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reagan. We'll now ask for the second time. Is there anyone from the gallery that would wish to speak? Oh, not from the gallery, but Councillor St. Amand has a question.
Not a question. I just wanted to pass along to Mr. Regan that on the question of the Halifax Green Network Plan, there is a staff report coming back to CPED, which will provide some information on that. That was on our agenda review today. All of the councillors will wind up being invited to that meeting because of the importance of the item, and it will be forwarded to council as a information item as well.
Thank you, Councillor St. Amand. 3 for 3 tonight, Walter. Yes. So for the second time, is there anyone from the gallery that would like to speak? For the third and final time, is there anyone from the gallery that would wish to speak? Hearing none, we can now move on to item 13, which is information items brought forward. There are none. Reports, item 14.1.1, Plan App 2025-01152, amendment to the land use bylaw for Beaver Bank, Hammonds Plains, and Upper Sackville to amend Appendix A1 to include PID 40306565 as access only for 505 Lucasville Road, first reading. There is no presentation, but we do have a staff present. Jessica Harper is here with us, and will answer any questions. Would a member like to put the motion on the floor to start the conversation? Councillor Yap.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the Northwest Community Council give first reading to consider the proposed text amendment to Appendix A-1 of the Beaver Bank, Hammonds Plains, and Upper Sackville Land Use Bylaw to add the PID 403-06565 as access only for the development at 505 Lucasville Road, PID 414-64512, and set out in Attachment A of the staff report dated December 4th, 2025, and schedule a public hearing.
Seconded by Councillor Hartling. Councillor Gillis. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion?
No. Did you buzz it?
No, I didn't buzz in.
None?
Oh. I would like to mention something.
Pardon?
I'm still lit up. I was gonna mention something as
Please do.
putting it on the floor. Okay, so being that there's not a presentation, I'd like to have staff. Can staff come up to answer a couple of questions?
Absolutely. Jess, if you would come forward and answer some questions that might come from members of Community Council. Thank you.
Hi, Jess. I just wanted to, so I had a lot of feedback from the community, as you are well aware. Concerns about the actual development itself, not so much this amendment. So, and I spoke to the applicant today. We had a really good conversation. I'm just wondering, with the amendment to the driveway, is there any runoff issues or anything? Because it kind of goes downhill. I just wanted to find out from you.
Thank you. Through the chair to the councillor. So this amendment is just for the land use bylaw text, just to add the PID to the appendix. All those, like this, with regard to like the layout, stormwater runoff, servicing, all of those items will be reviewed through the as of right process at the permitting stage. So they weren't reviewed as this part of this application, but they will be reviewed in detail when the permits come in.
Okay, so the community itself will have an opportunity at the public hearing to voice their concerns.
Through the chair of the council, that is correct. So at the public hearing, pending we receive first reading here tonight,
Right.
members of the public will be able to come and share their thoughts directly with community council.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Any other questions for Jessica? The motion is on the floor and seconded. What is your wish? Call for the question? Question has been called. I saw some nods. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. The motion is carried. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Jess. And now moving on, we've got motions. None. In camera, there's none. Added items, we had none. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, our next meeting is February 9th, 2026, and we would ask for a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor St. Amand, we are adjourned at 7:40 p.m. Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a great evening and a safe drive home.